Welcome back to the Digital Doha Podcast, our new series that brings you informative conversations with local experts, exploring the cutting edge of emerging media happening right here in the dynamic international capital of Doha. I'm your host, Spencer Stryker, digital media professor at Northwestern Qatar, and I'm joined by my co-host, Shaikha Alkubaisi, media information and technology student at NUQ. We're thrilled to bring you episode 4, Chaos Antidote, featuring Hadeer Omar. Hadeer is an Egyptian time-based media artist, designer, and educator. She holds an MFA in Design and BFA in graphic design. Her work explores cultural identity and memories, the self and narratives artfully through immersive XR media and technologies, graphics, photography, and video art installations. She currently serves as assistant professor at VCUarts in Education City, Qatar. Her work has been showcased in Egypt, Qatar, San Francisco, Austria, Bulgaria, Dubai, and Berlin. Hadeer is an expert at manipulating mediums to emphasize the story behind each piece of her work. We hope you enjoy our conversation with one of Doha's leading innovators in ARVR design. You said you've been doing digital media production for 15 years. That's pretty much as long as digital media production has been around. So you're kind of like, very early practitioner, but did you start off interested in ARVR or have you evolved into ARVR in the course of your career?
I did evolve, yes. I started as just because I'm in graphic design, I was curious in digital technologies in general, going from 2D to 3D to 2D again. Back in the old days when we're doing animations and starting with holograms and things like that. So it was very early stage with things, and being still an undergrad student, maybe the resources were not there, the technology was still not developed. I don't know how to code, so this is something that was a little bit more advanced for a designer to learn. So it was more for the computer science students or like Carnegie Mellon students that they were like more famous to do these kind of things, and we joined forces if we were interested. So after I graduated, this is when we started getting that kind of turning to that movement, which is going to an era of a designer can be also a coder and could be a developer and can do so much more than be a consumer to the tools. And we can go behind the scenes and edit these tools. So this is something that in my career, I saw that it shifted so much, and it was naturally something that made me dig in more in AR and VR. And it's not just AR and VR. I experiment with XR in general, like extended realities in all sorts of forms, not just these two. So I do spatial installations. I work with audio installations. I try to play with light sculpting. Like there's so many other things that VR can be part of it, and AR for sure. Already we're exposed to it every day on Instagram and filters and all of that. So it's like it's part of our daily routine now.
You said you started as early as you were an undergraduate. So where did you do your undergraduate education?
I did it at VCU. So I graduated with a graphic design degree at VCU. At that time, I was the last batch to be girls only. And it was a very interesting time in the art school, and also how to raise awareness about design and what design is. And I was privileged to be part of an institution that I saw its development and the development of the field for the last 15 years. I went out and I did my own thing, and I came back to the same institution, which gave me a very interesting way of like developing as a person, and also taking from the history of this institution and educating the students now it's interesting because it's radical, but at the same time we have history. So it's like I kind of like not coming to be like I'm like invading you and here's my ideas. It's like, no, I'm already, I know how these institutions work. I knew traditionally how the institution, how it consumed design, how it celebrated and educated design, and now what they reached. It's great.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're one of the first cohorts of students at VCUQ.
The school in 2 years or 3 years is going to be its 25th anniversary. It's one of the earliest schools in Qatar Foundation. So it's the first university that has a lot of artists came out, and they're doing amazing stuff. And some of them they're teaching now. Some of them they're outside of the country. Others that they're embedded in the DNA of the country now and doing amazing things. So it's that's why I was saying VCU's history is evolving so much, because it's from the 90s. Like, you know, like I think it was 1998 or something that when it was established.
And you were what? You came about 10 years after they?
I came in, yeah, I was a freshman in 20, I was, 2006. Yeah, this is when was my first.
I see.
Yeah, freshman year.
You said that you are the last cohort that was all women?
Yeah, so my class of 2010, that was the last girls only, because it used to be just girls' school. And then after us, it's like it started to be co-ed after.
And because we're like in the topic of culture, like you exhibited your work in like various places like Egypt, Qatar, San Francisco, Austria, Bulgaria, and so on. How different is the digital media world in Qatar and the Middle East in general, like compared to these other countries?
I'll tell you a funny story, just because, or like the intentions behind, because Spencer already spoke about, like, you know, it's like why or when did you start talking, like digging into digital arts. And for me, one of the things that I felt artists struggle a lot of the times is shipment, the amount of payment that they have to pay when they want to like ship their work, or all these kind of like hustle that they have to go through. Digital art is great when it comes to like, you know, just send a file or you send a folder with stuff and you're done. When you're submitting a film to festivals, you just like also have your press kit done. You don't have to travel that much. It's not like before. People used to do that before, but now it's like you can finish everything in your house and you submit and you're done, and you can get your profit also while you're sitting on your couch. So for me, that's one of the biggest benefits about digging into like digital arts. And also when it comes to extended realities, is that whole idea of like transporting you to somewhere else. So it's like you don't have to travel everywhere. You don't have to experience everything at once. You don't have to feel that FOMO kind of thing all the time. It's like, again, we're living in a space now that you can put a headset on, or you can use your phone to get to be in real time in somewhere else. And then when you are bored or something, you can just go to the next event. You can scroll down to the other event. So you're always updated and you're consuming all these information. It's crazy, but I still feel like it's a huge benefit.
Well, first of all, you speak about digital media practice in such a fluent and thoughtful way. I'd love to transition now and actually talk about some of your specific projects, maybe starting with Fragmented Realities.
So this project was originally, it was supposed to be a VR projection mapping kind of project. But the problem is, because of COVID, we limited the idea to just projection mapping and audio installation, audiovisual installation. So that was part of my residency in Doha Fire Station, and it's a residency for a couple of months. It's like 9 months residency, but because of COVID hit, we had to kind of like extend the time and work more on it in our houses and our studios. And my research in the residency was about dreams, and the process of dreams is something that's common between all of us. And what was interesting for me was not just the psychological side, it was also how people try to turn their narratives or these visions that they get into symbols. And stories, and they make sense of it just to kind of survive the day, or like they relate it to their own lives in somehow that it's like maybe it's a sign or something. And I've been very interested in that concept, and so many stories. People try to kind of, the first thing when you tell people, did you have a dream yesterday or something, or someone is telling you about their latest dreams, they always say, I was in that space, it was that time, these people are with me. So there are a lot of kind of descriptive elements that it's like as if you're telling a story, you know. It's like they want to make sense of the narrative with these elements that it's usually, if you're watching a film or whatever, they're gonna have the same elements. A sense of smell, a sense of like physicality, maybe it could be pain, it could be something that after they wake up they get to experience. So for me that was amazing, because every single person you ask, they have a story to share, they have a feeling that they got, or maybe a symbol, or like something that it's like it occurred to them so many times and they're still not sure why it happened. Mind is so heavy and super weird, and we don't know till now how the brain works. So it's like for us is like this is our only way of making sense of it. So this installation was not just my work. I didn't want people to be immersed in just my own dreams and my own stories. So that's a collective of 60 people's dreams. So I embedded my concept to one of my my classrooms. So my students, 35 students also, they shared and created their own dreams, videos and audio escapes. That for them, that was the sound escapes that they generated first, and then they created visuals for it. And these are all like these mind maps are all the students' work. Like they were just like figuring out like the dreams and the making of it. And then for me, when it came to the installation, Pillows was the unit that I wanted to project on, because this is the place that you dream, you know, and that's what symbolizes it. And I built a room in the space, and it just like it created that whole like you transported to that room. So it's like the whole idea is like turning, it's supposed to be a VR experience, but I turned it to like a physical space instead of a VR space. And that was my my alternative solution for COVID, just because of
it's very creative. You could take this and transpose it to pure VR. Maybe you could. Of course, you could use
I have the content.
Yeah, this could be like the prototype for the ARVR experience. Yes.
Of course. I have the content. I have the audio. I have 30 other public that I just did an open call, and people submitted their voice notes of their dreams. So it was a collective experience that I enjoyed the process once people start sharing their dreams more than when I was making it, because I just developed a template for them and they just took it and did their own thing, which was great for me. And
what did you like what did you learn about people's dreams in the process? Because that to me is very interesting that you blended, you said 60 people's dreams. What did you learn about people's dreams in the process of doing that?
Some of them, they're very descriptive. Like some, they send me 4 minutes long, 5 minutes long of the same dream. And some of them, they felt that they woke up in the middle of the dream and they were still dreaming. So that physicality is something that's huge and crucial. And when it comes to like your phases and the stages that you're in within your dream. And it's like some of my students, they were talking about lucid dreaming and how they can know how to control their dreams. And I'm like, this was a very interesting conversation in the classroom, because we all, yes, share the same process, but we all experience it completely different. If you have anxieties, if you have any mental health issues or anything, or like you're going through a lot in your life maybe, or what you ate or your cycle of sleep is ruined. So sometimes this affects also what you're gonna get or what you're gonna experience. Some of them, they were talking about how they connect with their loved ones that they passed away because of like that. So it was a way of kind of visiting them, or like get to reconnect by loved ones, like with the loved ones through the dreams. So that was very interesting for me.
I wanted to like ask because you said like you have the ability to transform this project into VR. Like, what's the process of transitioning this into a VR project?
Um, at the beginning, I was interested in using image capture and like sensors, and like in real time, people will be interacting in that space. So it's like the projection is interactive. It's not just you sit and experience things. The VR was gonna be like an extension, like another translation of the same idea, but it's just a completely different thing, and it just didn't happen. So for me, I have all the interviews still. I have all the visuals that I created. I have some of them, they're 2D, and other that I was shot already in 360. There's some that you can generate even in a 360 environment digitally. So I'm not, and because it's a dream, I can go as trippy as I want with the visuals. Yeah. You know, it's like at the end of the day, there's no rules here. You can break whatever you learned about what you should and shouldn't do in VR context. But because it's the theme itself is you can do whatever, you can really do whatever.
Let's take a look at this one, the Weathered Tower 360. So can you tell us a little bit more about this one and how you leverage ARVR for this piece?
So that was a VR collaboration piece. So it was an exhibition that was created by one of my friends and colleagues, Maysa Al-Mu'min and her husband, and they both have their own company, and they had an exhibition in Fire Station back in 2020. And that time, they collaborated with other artists to take their artifacts and their artworks and get inspired from one of the pieces, and create my own take on it. So they had that tower. It's like a 3D printed tower. It's almost 1 meter high. And I just inserted my VR camera, like a 360 camera, inside of that tower. And I wanted to, when you see the tower it's small. It's a mock-up, or like it's just an artifact. But I wanted to change the definition of it, or how you view it, and to turn it to more into like an architectural space. And to get to see with light and shadows. For me, light and shadows is something that's crucial in my work. So I wanted just to tell another story, that these towers maybe should be, or maybe this is what they represent. And I just played with light and shadows, and with the levels, and playing with the audio also, and the soundtrack, and how it was played, and people they were get to enjoy it, because in the exhibition you get to see the tower, and then you get to watch it, or you get to experience it. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting experience, like experiment for me, because I do work with people a lot. Like I don't like to work alone. I always collaborate with someone. Mm-hmm. Someone needs to be on board with me. And this was one of these things that it's like I get to take someone else's work and just like give it a second life, or just have another take on what it means, or what it represents.
Okay, so just so I understand. So this is a 3D printed tower that you then made into a immersive VR experience, yes?
Yep.
And then you playing with the concept of shadows, of light and shadows. Is the whole thing is in black and white, or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. It looks like a kind of, obviously it looks like an old film, kind of has that interesting aesthetic. Can I ask you a practical question about just showcasing AR/VR work? I mean, is it safe to say something is lost when people are watching on YouTube? They're watching people with the sets, and they're not really able to appreciate what it was like, right? To be there with the set on their head. I mean, just maybe you can speak to that, just the challenges of showcasing.
This is one of the things that still till now doesn't get me really excited about VR because of the headset and how isolated you are in that space. And for me, what I love about projection mapping is like I can have 20 people experiencing the same thing together in the space. And VR till now is not like that. And the headset itself is heavy. It's not convenient when it comes to like now with COVID, like now we can't do that. Like I always teach students or introduce them to VR in every semester that I have them. When I have new batch, I usually have at least one project that's VR. And usually I take them to class and we have already a station for VR that's in my classroom. And I just make them experience VR. Some of them, they didn't experience VR experience before, like ever. So it's like for them, it's not just about creating for them. It's also just like introducing to the world. It's like, you're designing for everywhere. Everything is exposed in that space. So for me, once COVID hit, I had to start finding other alternatives, like, you know, it's like sending them like cardboard VR headsets and things like that, just to at least get to see their work when they're doing it, just to test it. Not the same experience, of course, but it's so limiting. Like it's something that for me, AR is maybe a little bit way better when it comes to COVID. Like now, I've been teaching them also and doing like AR, like, you know, it's like experiences, but it's like 2D or 3D experiences. So we did the once was an Instagram, like it was a collaboration, and we did like an Instagram filter thing that it was also 3D that was embedded in one of the courses, and in the Art Foundation also Maisal Moment also, she was in charge of that, and I collaborate with them to kind of like push that experience. Another project that was two projects actually, that 2D now that we did one in movie posters, so they had to get inspired of the movie poster, and they had the score of the film and they have to animate it. So you scan the film and it's like it starts animating the poster, which was super fun. Now we're doing it. And another project that we did was for food packaging. So when you scan any food packaging, it's just like it starts getting animated, and it's fun because some of them, they got really creative with the space. Like even if it's just 2D flat images, they started creating a 3D space with the imagery and stuff like that. To mimic a 3D experience. So AR for sure during COVID helped me more to kind of make the students feel that they're not missing out anything. But VR is, you still can teach it online. It's not hard. I'm teaching foundations, first year students, and some of them it was their first even semester. And we did an animation. Also, it was another collaboration with Drawing Studio with another professor called Jesse. And he also, because he teaches drawing, me and him, we collaborated to do an animation in 360. They were drawing in a 360 space using Photoshop, and we edited it on Premiere. They drew frame by frame on Photoshop. It was a nightmare, but we still loved the process.
Yeah, that was going to be, I mean, you've already answered that in some considerable detail, but I mean, as you said, you're kind of on the cutting edge of teaching this very new digital media practice of ARVR. So, but this is a totally collaborative project, just on a practical consideration. How are you grading this?
Good question, because evaluation is something that's tricky. But for me, it's I was with Payne at that time. The professor, he was grading the drawing aspect of the project, and I was for time. And time is mainly is like the technical part of the drawing and the storyline, the process of the making, and we have participation also is graded as part of the grade. How can you, whatever concept or abstract you're giving us, the mood and the feel and the audio also that they were creating, the soundscape that they created, because it also had audio that they were designing. So all of this I was grading. And Jesse on the other side, he was also looking at the technicalities when it comes to the drawing and how you can turn it to like a spatial rich space. You can see the difference when you're looking at like each one. You would see like, you know, some of them, they were very interested in just filling the space with things and they're obsessed with details. Others, they were interested in investing in the audio, for example, and they just worked on a very simple idea, but it was effective. So it's this is how they get evaluated usually.
Okay, yeah, that's very advanced in a collaborative approach to teaching the class.
I see a lot of like Arabic words. Is that like intentional, like mashallah, ajib, Arabic, like small little details?
So there are a lot of these words that we always use anyway when we talk. Like, you know, it's like ajib was also because the students say it all the time when they're critiquing each other's work. They just say ajib or like, oh, it's amazing or whatever, or like mashallah, this is great. You know, it's like, it's always, they have these terms. So the faculty usually use it as a way of like, you know, it's like as a prompt word, or like, you know, it's like we use it as to be part of like, you know, it's like getting a title that like they can relate to, or like it's part of what they do every day. And sometimes like this title, for example, it was one of the students, she's the one who suggested the title for me. So it's not, it doesn't have like a specific way or one way of dealing with titles. But Arabic is something that, since we are in that context, and it also how we are, like our identities, and like the majority of the students, I don't usually push the Arabic side of things. Like I don't, not because we are in the context, we have to speak in Arabic, or we have to tell our stories in Arabic. But we did recently a project which I told students to just talk and record themselves speaking whatever language they're comfortable with. And I ended up getting so many different languages, and I told them, send me subtitles for it, because if we want to add it to the project, at least it makes sense. But it's, for us, is like, it's that usually that's the case. Like I don't push the Arabic just because we're here. I try to find I tell the students to find their own voices with whatever language they're comfortable with. Being here in that region when the phones started back in the old days in the 90s, when the keyboard was just in English, and we didn't have that option to express ourselves as Arabs. So we created the Arabizi as a way of like communicating with each other and speaking with the letters, and combining them together with the numbers to communicate. So now I'm seeing a lot of these AR or like augmented reality kind of like keyboards and sensors and whatever, that it's like, if you do this, if you do that, you get to like do some hand gesture, whatever, that it's like, this is how you control your laptop, or this is how you control your phone, or this is how you switch on or off the lights. But there's no anything that I can relate to that. The gestures didn't make sense to me. And for me, I wanted to have any connection. And I thought, if we, because of the concept of like, we are being colonized for years, and just like, you know, the technologies usually come from specific places in the world. So it was, for me, it's like, maybe instead of like inventing the tools from the scratch, maybe I can just find a concept that I can embed it within that system. And the Arabizi keyboard is extracted from the way that we count, a way of counting for tasbih. It's like after it's like calling like for prayers and like dua and stuff like that. So it's like, there's a way of like counting that we do on the hand if we don't have these kind of like the beads thing. So if you don't have it, it's like you have to count on your hand. And we usually do it like 33 counts, and then you go again to 33 counts and another 33 counts. So there is a specific way of doing it. And I love the way that when someone is sitting on the prayer rug and they're doing it, you know exactly what they're doing, and it's already accounting system for us, or like a way of like communicating with God. So it's like I took that as a way of like, if there is a sensor on your laptop or your phone or whatever that can detect like a leap motion, or whatever sensor can detect your hand gestures, and this could be our way to communicate. So that's related to our culture, related to how can we relate to like connect, at least it reminds us every day is like, you know, it's like what we do and what we believe in. And also it invites the whoever is not knowing what is that, you know, it's like being curious about what we this system, and it's yeah, and it invites them to kind of raise questions and know more about our culture. So that was I got an award in Ars Electronica Festival in Austria in 2017 because of that. Even it was just a concept, I sent them the project anyway, and they, even the description that they said, it was, even if it was just a concept, they wanted to support the idea that it's like it can go anywhere. But the problem is like, for me, I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, so it's like I stopped it for now. But it's like, I know that it maybe the technology can get better in a way that it's like we can really get to have that kind of keyboard on our phones.
In the beginning of your career, you were doing kind of pure design and graphic design, and then you mentioned that as you move forward, you've begun to learn programming. So can you speak to that, like from both practice perspective and also from education perspective, and the status of ARVR more generally, your relationship, but the intersection with design and technology?
You know, the thing is like, again, as I told you, like I'm a very curious person, which it usually the idea that I want to develop, usually the outcomes or the mediums start revealing itself while I'm working. So I don't usually be like, I want to do a VR experience, let's find a concept for it. I don't do this. I usually have an idea in my head, and this is what leads me to using AR. What's the best tool for it? So right. I was working with on during Qumrah, I had a film that was in Qumrah, and at that time I was introduced to a producer that he works in VR, and when he started hearing my concept and my it was a film that about someone being in your shoes, like you want them to be in you, and I don't want to see the girl, and they told me VR could be the best solution for you if you want to do that. Don't do it in a 2D film. And I started digging more, and I went to South Africa. I was introduced to a program that I was got selected to be in, that they it's called Electric South, that they helped me with my story, and they developed also, they work with extended realities in general. They introduced me to the whole world of like, we had journalists, we had media people, we had filmmakers, musicians, whatever, that they were all curious about the technology. Some of them, they were using AI technology. Some of them, they were interested just in traditional stuff and mixing it together. So I was introduced to more than VR, which got me excited in so many other things than just VR and AR. And it's like photo geometry, like, you know, it's like scanning like a whole city and playing around with like models and animating with volumetric filmmaking and what's happening as a movement and how they're developing themselves. So it's like, it got me in so many directions that it showed me that it's not about the tools. The tools will keep evolving and changing, and tools will get better every single year, and others will extinct in a second. And you can't just be like just sitting there waiting for the tool to get better for you. So it's, for me, it was what makes makes me drive or makes me move around is my curiosity with what I want to say. So, and then I find the right tool, learn it, or collaborate with people that they know it, and then do my own thing after.